The cobblestone streets of this historic city hummed with the quiet dignity of tradition. Horse-drawn carriages clattered past elegant townhouses, their facades adorned with intricate stonework. The air carried the scent of freshly baked bread from local patisseries, and the faint perfume of blooming roses in manicured gardens. In this picturesque setting, the Monnier family stood as a pillar of aristocratic virtue. Their home, a grand three-story mansion on the Rue de la Visitation, was a testament to their status. Its tall windows gleaming under the soft glow of gas lamps, its interior adorned with polished mahogany and velvet drapes. To the outside world, the Monniers were the epitome of refinement. Madame Louise Monnier, the matriarch, was a celebrated figure in Poitiers' high society. Her poised demeanor and impeccable taste made her a frequent guest at the city's most exclusive gatherings. Her son, Marcel, was carving a respectable path as a lawyer, his sharp mind and measured speech earning him admiration in legal circles. And then there was Blanche, beautiful, intelligent, and graceful. At 25, she was the jewel of the Monnier family, her auburn hair cascading in soft waves, her eyes bright with a quiet intensity that hinted at a spirited soul. To her neighbors, she was a vision of charm, often seen strolling through Poitiers' gardens in her flowing dresses, a parasol shielding her pale skin from the sun. But beneath this polished exterior, a storm was brewing in Blanche's heart. She had fallen in love, a love that would unravel the Monnier family's carefully curated image and plunge Blanche into a nightmare that would span a quarter of a century. Her beloved was an older lawyer, a man whose name has been lost to history but whose character was deemed wholly unsuitable by the Monnier family. He was not of their class. A Republican with modest means, he lacked the wealth and pedigree that Louise Monnier demanded for her daughter's suitor. To Louise, marriage was not about love but about alliances, about securing the family's place in the rigid hierarchy of French aristocracy. Blanche's choice was an affront to this vision, a rebellion against the expectations that had shaped her life. At first, Blanche kept her romance a secret. She would slip out under the cover of dusk, her heart racing as she met her lover in quiet corners of Poitiers, perhaps by the Claine River, where the water shimmered under the moonlight, or in the shadow of the ancient Notre-Dame-la-Grande church. These stolen moments were her rebellion, her defiance of a world that sought to control her. She dreamed of a life with him, a life where love, not status, defined her future. When Blanche finally confessed her intentions to marry, the reaction was explosive. Louise's face, usually composed and regal, contorted with rage. Her voice, sharp as a blade, echoed through the Monnier mansion as she forbade the union. Marcel, ever loyal to his mother, stood by her side, his disapproval cold and calculated. They demanded that Blanche end the relationship immediately. But Blanche, with her quiet strength, refused. She stood her ground, her voice trembling but resolute, declaring that her heart belonged to the man she loved. That defiance was her undoing. In the days that followed, Blanche vanished from Poitiers' social scene. Friends inquired about her absence, their questions met with vague answers from Louise. "Blanche has gone away," she would say, her lips pursed in a tight smile. "She has chosen a life of seclusion." Some whispered that she had fallen into disgrace, perhaps eloping with her unsuitable suitor. Others assumed she had retreated to a convent, her spirit broken by scandal. The truth, however, was far darker. Blanche had not left Poitiers. She had not eloped or sought refuge in a convent. She was a prisoner in her own home, locked away in a small, windowless attic room at the top of the Monnier mansion. The room, barely large enough to hold a bed and a chair, was sealed behind heavy wooden shutters, its walls stained with dampness and mold. The air was thick with the stench of decay, and the only light came from a faint sliver that crept through a crack in the shutters during the day. Here, Blanche was confined, her world reduced to four walls and a ceiling that seemed to press down on her with every passing hour. For 25 years she remained in that room, a secret kept by her own family. The Monniers' cruelty was not born of hatred, but of a warped sense of propriety. To Louise, Blanche's love was a stain on the family's honor, a threat to their social standing. By locking her away, Louise believed she was protecting the Monnier name, preserving the illusion of perfection that defined their public image. Marcel, complicit in his silence, aided his mother in this horrific act. They fed Blanche just enough to keep her alive, scraps of bread, watery soup, whatever would sustain her without allowing her strength to rebel. Her only human contact was with her captors, who entered the room to deliver food or perhaps to remind her of her shame. Blanche's days blurred into an endless cycle of darkness and despair. The vibrant young woman who had once danced at society balls and laughed with friends was reduced to a shadow of herself. Her auburn hair, once her pride, grew matted and gray. Her body, starved of nourishment and movement, withered to a skeletal frame. The room became her prison and her tomb, its walls absorbing her silent screams. She scratched at the door until her nails bled, whispered prayers into the darkness, and clung to memories of her lover's face, though even those began to fade with time. Outside, Poitiers continued its genteel existence. The Monniers maintained their facade of respectability, attending church, hosting dinners, and exchanging pleasantries with neighbors. No one suspected the horror hidden within their home. The attic room was soundproofed by thick walls and heavy shutters, and Blanche's cries, if she still had the strength to make them, went unheard. The years stretched on. 1876 became 1880, then 1890, then 1900. The world outside changed. The Third Republic solidified its grip on France. Gas lamps gave way to electric lights, and Poitiers grew into a modern city. But for Blanche, time stood still. Her world was frozen in that attic, her body and mind deteriorating under the weight of her confinement. The truth might have remained buried forever if not for an anonymous letter that arrived at the office of the Attorney General in Paris in May 1901. The letter, written in a hurried scrawl, was both shocking and precise. It claimed that a woman was being held captive in a wealthy household in Poitiers, living in conditions of unimaginable filth and cruelty. The writer provided no name but included enough details to spark alarm: the address on the Rue de la Visitation, the Monnier family, and the attic room. Skeptical but duty-bound, the authorities dispatched a team of police to investigate. On May 23, 1901, they arrived at the Monnier mansion. Louise, ever the picture of composure, greeted them with a tight smile, insisting there was nothing amiss. But the officers, guided by the letter's specificity, demanded to search the house. They climbed the narrow staircase to the attic, their footsteps echoing in the silent mansion. When they reached the locked door, a foul odor seeped through the cracks, confirming their worst fears. With a crowbar, they pried open the door. The sight that greeted them was beyond comprehension. Blanche Monnier lay on a rotting mattress, her body emaciated and covered in sores. She was naked, her skin clinging to her bones, her weight barely 24 kilograms. Her hair, once a cascade of auburn, was a tangled mass that reached her waist. The room was a cesspool of filth, piles of excrement, rotting food, and vermin scurrying across the floor. The air was so thick with stench that the officers gagged, their eyes watering as they approached the frail figure before them. Blanche's eyes, dull and sunken, flickered with a mix of fear and disbelief. She whispered, her voice barely audible, "Who are you?" For 25 years she had seen no one but her mother and brother. The concept of rescue was foreign to her broken mind. Louise Monnier was arrested on the spot. The scandal rocked Poitiers, shattering the family's reputation. Louise, frail and nearing 70, collapsed under the weight of her exposure and died of heart failure days later, never facing trial. Marcel was charged with complicity, but his legal acumen and claims of ignorance led to his acquittal, though he was shunned by society thereafter. Blanche was taken to a hospital, her body too weak to walk, her mind fractured by years of isolation. Doctors marveled that she had survived at all. She was later transferred to a psychiatric institution in Blois, where she spent the rest of her days. Though she received care, the damage was irreparable. Her spirit, once so vibrant, had been crushed by decades of darkness. She died in 1913, at the age of 62, her life a tragic testament to the cost of defying her family's will. The tragedy of Blanche Monnier is more than a story of cruelty. It is a stark reminder of the dangers of valuing image over humanity. In the rigid world of 19th-century aristocracy, love was a luxury Blanche could not afford. Her defiance, her refusal to bend to her family's expectations, cost her 25 years of her life, years stolen in the name of propriety. Her story lingered in Poitiers, whispered in drawing rooms and written in newspapers. It became a cautionary tale, not of love's folly, but of the monstrous lengths to which pride and control can drive a family. Blanche's love, silenced behind walls, was her crime, and her punishment was a secret kept far too long.